Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Vayechi. It's the final concluding Sedra of the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis. In it we find that Yaakov, the patriarch Jacob, is finally reunited with his beloved son Yosef. And in chapter 49 we have a very mysterious verse. It's considered to be very esoteric. We have Yaakov on his deathbed, and he is calling to all his children, "Gather together, and I will tell you what will befall you in the end of days." And there is a tradition that Yaakov sought to reveal to his children the details of the time of the ultimate redemption, the coming of the Messiah, the end of days. He says, "Gather together," calls all his children, he says, "Gather together, and I will tell you everything that will befall you in the end of days." But our sages state, and this is from the Talmud and Tractate Psachim, sages tell us that Yaakov actually wanted to reveal the end, but the Shekhinah, the spirit of prophecy, the divine presence that rested with him, departed from him suddenly. And we see actually that rather than reveal to his children everything that would befall them in the end of days, he goes on to something else entirely. And actually the ensuing verses are really laden with all sorts of esoteric meaning. It's obviously a messianic prophecy, and it's the blessings that he gives to each one of the tribes. There's a great deal of messianic tension and overtone there. However, it's really not at all what we would think would be the follow-up of the verse where he says, "I will tell you everything that will befall you in the end of days." It's really something else entirely. And the conventional wisdom regarding this apparent contradiction, it's quite famous, is the story of Shema Yisrael. The verse that we find in Deuteronomy 6, the hallmark of Jewish faith, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Hear, O Israel, Hashem who is our God, Hashem is one. The story that our sages tell us is that when Jacob was lying there and he saw that suddenly everything that he wanted to say left him, and the Shekhinah itself departed from him, and he was not able to reveal the end. He was afraid that there was some sort of blemish in one of his children, and that's why the inspiration was taken away from him. They weren't to know. And his sons, who were all very righteous, very great tzaddikim, sensing that this was the case and that he was very disturbed, they proclaimed as one, "No, Shema Yisrael, hear Israel our father, Hashem Elokeinu, God who is all of our God together, who is your God, He is one God, we believe in the same God as you, and this is not the case, this is not why the Shekhinah, the divine presence, departed from you." And he responded, the classic response to the Shema Yisrael, "Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed," blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever. That's not it, in other words. And until now, this we're all familiar with. This, like I say, is kind of the conventional wisdom on the background about this admittedly very mysterious verse. "Gather together, and I will tell you what will befall you in the end of days," and then, actually, he didn't. However, the Zohar has a very interesting way of looking at this whole mystery. And the Zohar says, how could it be that the holy Yaakov, the patriarch Jacob, Yisrael, did not reveal what he wanted to reveal? He said, "Gather together, and I'll tell you everything that's going to befall you in the end of days." Why would the Holy Torah record that Yaakov wanted to reveal the end, and then ultimately we would find that the Torah is an imperfect record, because the thing was never finished. It was left incomplete, and he never got to tell what he wanted to reveal. Could this actually be the case? And the Zohar opines, actually, the Zohar says, most certainly he did reveal everything that he needed to. But yet, as the Zohar puts it, it was revealed, and yet at the same time it was hidden. He said something, and he kind of revealed the external part of it, if you would. Or rather, through the external part of his words, he revealed what could be understandable at that time. But he concealed the inner part. In other words, the inner meaning of his statement was hidden, the details of the future at the time of the redemption. But in any event, the Zohar says the Torah's account is certainly true. Yaakov revealed what he wanted to reveal. Everything he had to, he did. So some of our holy tzaddikim, they look at this statement of the Zohar and they make a very beautiful kind of analysis of these words in Hebrew. "Gather together, and I will tell you." And they say, gather together, and then the word that I will tell you, also a root of the same word is bind yourselves together. And it has to do with the Hebrew derivation of the root letters of this word, I will tell you, to tell. You can take those same letters that form the root of that word, and it's a concept of to tie together. So it really could be understood as Yaakov saying, gather together and bind yourselves together. In other words, be in unison. Show some unity. And what will befall you, again, as a play on words of the word here in Hebrew, what will befall you, that which will be precious to you in the end of days, will be this concept of your being bound together. And all this reflects one of the greatest mysteries of the concept of the redemption and what ultimately slows it down. You see, there is a verse in Isaiah, also quite mysterious. It's in reference to the redemption. It's chapter 60 and verse 22 of the book of Isaiah, where Hashem says, I am the Lord, I am Hashem, and referring to the redemption, the verse states, in its time, I will hasten it. In its time, I will hasten it. And this is actually a contradiction. Which is it? Is it going to come in its time, in its expected appointed time, or is it going to come about early? I will hasten it. Because the verse actually means, according to our holy sages, that the redemption could come in its appointed time, kind of the default, or it could even come earlier. Our sages have taught this from the Talmud and Tractate Sanhedrin, that what the meaning of this verse in Isaiah is really telling us is that if they merit the redemption, I will hasten it. If the Jewish people are found in a state of merit, they're all considered as tzaddikim, as righteous, I will hasten it. But if they don't merit, it's still going to come about. I promised, God says, and nothing can ever change that. I promised there'll be a redemption, but then it will come in its appointed time. And Yaakov here, according to this insight of our great tzaddikim, and based on the words of the Zohar, and understanding this verse in our chapter 49, Yaakov is really giving advice to his children and telling them, at that time, if you are not meriting, if you are not to be found in God's eyes in an exalted state of righteousness, then you should gather together, bind yourselves together, and through this you will be considered in the category of merits. It's very similar to our sages' comments on another verse in Isaiah chapter 60. Your people will all be righteous. They will inherit the land forever. And our sages tell us when they are united, that's when they're all considered to be righteous. And this has to do with the fact that at the root level, the whole nation, only an individual can really sin. But at the root, the unit is not sullied, it's untouchable, it's always holy. And Yaakov revealed this secret. And this was all he had to reveal. That even if they are in a situation of what they say in Hebrew, lo zachu, they did not merit for the redemption to be hastened, but still by binding themselves together, through this they can bring themselves to the level of merits. And so, our sages explain that Yaakov wanted to reveal the end, but the divine presence departed from him. And ostensibly, we would ask, well, what did he do to deserve this? What crime did he commit by wanting to reveal to his children the details of when the blessed and anticipated redemption would come about? What did he do to deserve that the Shekhinah would depart from him? But according to our explanation, the truth is that if they are found to be meritorious in God's eyes, then he will hasten the redemption even before its time. And actually, Yaakov, by wanting to reveal to his children the time, the appointed, preset, default time, in a way, he was limiting Israel. It's like he was kind of holding them down in his mind and kind of saying that he expects them not to deserve it earlier than its appointed time. So I'll tell you the appointed time because it's not going to come about earlier. So actually, everything that he was saying here was advice, how to deal with the situation in the case that they would not be found meritorious and that something seems to be retarding the redemption. All this is the way to merit it earlier, and it's in line with the Zohar's statement that everything that he had to reveal, he really did, but he also hid. Everything that he wanted to reveal, he did, in the form of advice of how to conduct themselves to make sure that they're in situation that maybe they're not deserving it to be hastened, but they could bring it about in such a way they could actually, through unity, usher in the light of the Messiah and the light of redemption. And this is the part that he revealed. And the part that he kept concealed is the appointed default time, the preset redemption, because that will happen regardless of our behavior, and that he did not reveal. And everybody knows that lack of unity is our biggest problem. And we all know this in our world today. Here in our Parsha this week, we are dealing with the universal theme of the ultimate redemption. And the source of all the troubles that beset us is our lack of unity. Our father Jacob actually saw it coming even then. May we merit to be a united people and thus usher in the true redemption.